This is Little Mean Kathleen, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey, Pyromaniacs. This is the unbreakable Sean Phoenix, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey guys, it's the immaculate threat, Nevaeh Chantel, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey, this is Gabriel Fuerza, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.
Hey, it's the K-tastic one on Money Chaos, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment podcast.
Hey, this is the Grinder, Mark Shaw, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, bringing you the latest exclusive breaking news, previewing and reviewing the latest shows from WWE, AEW, New Japan, everything in between every Saturday, and interviewing all your favorite wrestlers on Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox. I am your host, James J., with Kaliko Yachts, who is not here at the moment, but somebody that is here, Scooter Dust.
You know, at first I didn't like my beard, but then it grew on me.
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the Grinder, Mark Shaw. How are you, Mark?
Hey, guys. I'm good, man. How are you?
We're doing good.
Good.
Can you tell us what's coming up next for the Grinder and where we can find you on social media?
Well, right now in Canada, we can't do too much show-wise. You can check me out on the PWO Foundation show on YouTube. You can find that on the Pro Wrestling Ontario YouTube channel. You can also find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Grinder Mark Shaw. You can also find my Pro Wrestle Tees store at Grinder Mark Shaw as well.
And all of that information will be in the description of the interview below, both on YouTube and Castbox. And, this is part of the interview where I usually ask, what's your relationship with Pro Wrestling Ontario? But you actually started Pro Wrestling Ontario.
That's correct, yes. Myself, Nathan Savage, and Bill Chase all started Pro Wrestling Ontario in 2018.
Can you tell us how that maybe came about?
I had worked with another company that I had started and was heavily involved in out of Hamilton called Fringe Pro Wrestling. When Fringe closed in 2016, I wasn't quite satisfied with how that went, everything that we did. I kind of wanted to have another crack at it. So I got together with Bill and Nathan Savage, and we put together Pro Wrestling Ontario. We did it. We do it out of Burlington, which is not a very traditional wrestling town. We were trying to kind of revive that area, see if we could get people interested in independent wrestling again, and I think we've done a good job of that so far. 2020 obviously wasn't the best year for wrestling in Canada, so.
Right. Scooter, you had a question?
All right, I'll get right to the heart of what really caught my eye about you, Mark, and that's what's now basically known as No Ring North.
Yeah.
Formerly, or might still be Death Proof Fight Club. Is I believe owned by Steve Carino as well.
Yeah, I still believe Steve Carino owns a part of it. Yeah.
Specifically, your episode, your match against John Tavius.
Yeah.
It was so original, so creative from start to finish. How did that come to be, and who or how many people is and or are responsible for putting that together, both as a fight and as a performance piece, because it almost seemed to draw inspiration from the greatest graphic novel series to take place in Canada, Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. The man who runs No Ring North Warhead had decided that he kind of wanted to do something a little different. John and I are very different performers, but he wanted to kind of do something more interesting. So we had talked about it, discussed it for a good couple of weeks before we did the filming, trying to come up with how we wanted to present that, how it was going to be edited. We got to the point where eventually we were just like, let's have fun with it. Let's kind of, because I think everybody at this stage now is into video games. There's everyone kind of has like a little bit of a nerd in them a bit, right? So we're trying to find that little love note to the nerds out there and try to give them something a little different than just traditional wrestling, right? Even with No Ring North not being very traditional, but we wanted to try to do something a little bit different, even in that avenue of entertainment.
It's funny you say that everybody's got a little nerd in them, because we actually asked that question on the show very regularly. Honestly, it started with Holden Albright.
Okay.
But on that very episode Scooter had mentioned, you castrated a man.
So you got to do what you got to do to win. That's what it comes down to.
And to my surprise, that wasn't the end of the match. He kicked out.
Yeah, John's a very tenacious man. Apparently, that wasn't enough. Thankfully, putting him through a table was enough, but I think he still had a couple inches left to spare. So I don't think he was. I don't think he was hurting too bad.
I was about to say, a eunuch gimmick would certainly be very unique.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen someone play a eunuch, so that might actually get over.
I love the workshop portion of the show. Can you could you tell us about the foundation on YouTube, as you mentioned before?
Yep. So Pro Wrestling Ontario has our YouTube show, which we call Foundation. It's a little bit of interviews, segments, as well as a feature match. We did a big filming a couple months ago to just to give extra content to our fans because we couldn't run any shows. We wanted to make sure that our fans knew that we were thinking about them, wanted to give them entertainment. I know a lot of places throughout the world are like still on lockdowns and stay-at-home orders and stuff like that. So we really wanted to give our fans like a complete package that they can just watch at home for free, not expecting them to have to pay for it, just to kind of give them a thank you for sticking by with us while we wait out when we can run shows again. And Foundation was something that we had started when we were running shows. We had paused it for a little while when we stopped doing shows, but we decided that we were going to kind of just make it our web series for the time being.
And like you said, obviously the pandemic put everything on hold.
Yeah.
On the promoter side of things, is that very frustrating to have, yes, no, maybe, well, yes, you're gonna do it, no, you're not gonna do it, yes, we could do it, no, that kind of back and forward.
Yeah, that was very frustrating, especially like it's almost been a year now here in Canada when like everything kind of got locked down. We had just run a show February 15th of 2020, so we were thinking we had our big show, which is the Iron Cup, which is our WrestleMania. We had that kind of scheduled for April. when we had to cancel that, we were really disappointed, thinking like, okay, well, maybe it'll just be a couple weeks, maybe it'll be a couple months, we'll be able to run shows again. And then the summer went by and we still couldn't do very much. We looked at running outdoor shows, but the city of Burlington was very against it at the time. So that kind of left us stuck in a weird place of like, what do we do? And we had stories that we wanted to keep telling. And if you don't tell those stories after a certain amount of time, people forget about them. And we were happy with the direction we were going in, with our content. And it was really frustrating to watch all that momentum just disappear when you couldn't control anything about it. Sometimes when a promotion goes on a hiatus, it's because of an internal problem. And this was just something we could do nothing about. And we couldn't stop anything about it. We couldn't do anything to make it better. And that was a really frustrating experience.
Scooter, you had a question?
All right. In your first and only appearance for A1, you competed in what was called the first annual Randy Poffo Invitational. Randy Poffo, of course, being the father of Lanny Poffo and Randy Savage. How did that come to be? How did it feel to compete in an event named for such a legend? And I'm also curious as to why you never went back to A1, and because this was the first and also the last Randy Poffo Invitational.
That was a rather spur of the moment thing. I had actually just moved back from Ottawa. I was working behind the scenes for C4 in Ottawa, and I had come back. I had just popped by the show. A1 was run by, and is still run by, a lot of guys that I started off and trained with, or they started to train where I trained a couple years after I started. So I popped by to say hi to everybody, just to see what was going on. I had never been to an A1 show at that point. Colin Delaney couldn't get across the border.
Oh wow!
So they were a little stuck, and they were like, "Who's gonna pop in? Can anyone take the spot?" And Josh Alexander looked at me and said, "He goes, do you want the spot?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." It was a fun match. It was a fun experience. Just A1 never really materialized any further than that. At that point in time, they were focused a little bit more on younger talent. I was a little bit more experienced. They also had guys that they were bringing in from the States. It was a very hard roster to crack. And at that point in time, I wasn't back 100% to wrestling. At least in ring, I was doing a lot more behind the scenes stuff, and I was working more in production, trying to get my own promotion, which would have been Fringe, eventually off the ground. So it was kind of, I did that. I actually did a second show for A1, which was the Final Hurrah, which was a battle royal, and I appear in there for a very short amount of time before Steve Brown throws me out.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Interesting. And we're being joined by a little late Kaliko Yachts.
Yep, thought it was Hangouts. My bad.
Kaliko, let's throw you in the file. You have a question?
One thing that I noticed, I remember you, they made you do an apology one time at, what was it, PWO, I want to say?
Yeah.
And the one thing that I noticed, it was like, man, they just fucking with you, bro. I was like, man, why did they make this dude go all the way out in public to do that when he had valid points? You had some valid ass points, and I was on your side. I just want to know for the record that I was on your side, and I just want to know.
I appreciate that.
And I just want to know if you could elaborate on that situation for the fans who may have not seen it.
So I had been taking matters into my own hands with one Matthew Grant, who somehow managed to beat me at the first ever Iron Cup
He cheated.
for the open weight title. Yeah, well, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
But you know, this is a guy who used to be a referee, and he was a he had no right to be in that ring. I was making sure that I was protecting the industry that I love. Apparently, the management at PWO didn't think that what my actions were appropriate, so they made me do a formal apology, which is funny because I ended up being right anyways. So I never got a formal apology back in return, which I think is offensive. And I hope when the PWO management listens to this that they finally understand that I was right and that they owe me an apology now.
I think they owe you a title shot too. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just
that'd be
saying.
good.
No.
It'd be about time.
Management is out to get you. So, piggybacking off what Kaliko said, you are really good at, promo work. I mean, I've seen you do like a 5-6 minute promo that was like, wow. Does promos come naturally to you, or was it something you had to work on?
I think in the context of doing a wrestling promo, I had to work on it a little bit. I've always been kind of a natural entertainer in the sense that I can control a room, I can talk, I can be the center of attention. That's never been a big problem for me. It's trying to relate information in a way that tells the story, but it's also entertaining, because you're just you're like one dude standing on camera. Like, maybe there's somebody else there with you, but you're just talking, and you have to try to engage the audience, even though the audience isn't physically in front of you. It took a little bit. I think my early promo work wasn't some of my best. I think the beginning of my career, I didn't do a lot of promos, but as I started to get more confident in my ability, in my character, I was able to find the right way to portray myself on camera that made it work.
All right. And we've talked about the promoter side of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But what about being a wrestler in the pandemic, and how does it affect your psychology going into a match, knowing there's no crowd?
It's really difficult. The filming stuff that I've done, like with No Ring North and with Pro Wrestling Ontario, it was really weird to work in front of literally just a camera. The psychology is a little off because you're trying to work the same way you normally would. You would trying to work the same way that your heat's still going to be the same. You're hoping if you're the face when you're doing your hot comeback that you're trying to work up a crowd that isn't there. So the psychology is it's a little jarring at times because you're trying to follow the steps that you're supposed to follow. You've been trained to do this. This is what this is the rhythm you're supposed to follow. But when there's no crowd, it kind of feels soulless. So it's just trying to keep the energy and the entertainment there for a camera. That's really hard. And I even found watching like WWE when they first started doing stuff before they had the Thunderdome, like that was hard to watch because you could tell that it's not the same thing without a crowd, right? Wrestling's
Absolutely.
a social event, right? Yeah. And it was just it's difficult. It's I think it's going to make everyone who's had to wrestle in front of a crowd better for having to do it. But it was definitely a difficult experience.
All right. And Scooter, you have a question?
Want to bring up what might be a little bit of a sensitive topic, but can you tell us what it was like working with Shonamo, aka Sean Morris, right past.
Working with, I loved working with Shawnee-Mo. We didn't wrestle a hell of a lot of matches together. We probably did about 5 matches together, but every match I did with Shawnee-Mo was one of my favorite matches. He was so easy to work with. He was such a passionate person. He loved being involved in wrestling. He loved being in front of that crowd and entertaining people. And he really made the experience of putting a match together and performing in front of a crowd really easy. Because he wanted to be there and he wanted to engage with you and he wanted to do that performance with you. And guy was tough as nails. Like, I don't like we had a couple hardcore matches and like I don't care how hard I hit that guy in the head, he just kept coming. Like the son of a bitch was strong and he was tough. And I'm sad that I didn't get to spend more time with him. I'm sad that I didn't get to wrestle with him more. He was such a solid dude. My locker room feels empty, a little empty without him there. It's also sad that our last PWO show was his last wrestling match. Like who could have known that was going to happen, right? That was his last match. It was the last show we've run, and it's felt weird not being able to honor him the way that we do in wrestling. Like we haven't been able to give him a 10-bell salute. We haven't been able to honor him the way that the wrestling industry usually honors one of their fallen brothers. So that's been kind of a weird experience too, because every time that we lose somebody, really young, we have that time to bond, and we have that show to kind of give to that performer as like their show that we do in their honor. We haven't had a chance to really do that yet. And that feels strange too, because like Sean, it's getting closer and closer to a year since he's passed, and it feels weird to not have kind of that closure of that moment. And yeah.
I know exactly how you feel, strangely enough. I came up through the NYWC back in 2010, and we had just brought in Canyon.
Oh, okay. Yep.
With us, and he was working as Mortis, and he was supposed to face our interstate champion at the time, Alex Reynolds.
Okay. Yeah.
And I got to know Canyon because Canyon and I both came from the same part of New York, and we get to we have a show for a Saturday. I pull into the parking lot at 2 p.m. He's supposed to wrestle that night. I check a website on my phone, and it says Canyon was found dead in his apartment.
Yeah.
That day, and it's just a terrible shame when the young are taken like that. It's just oh man.
I remember that news when Canyon came, because he had actually just, I think maybe 5 or 6 months before that, had actually done a seminar at the school that I trained at. And I remember, normally, if like you've ever done a seminar, everyone kind of pairs off. I was like the odd guy out, so I got to work with Canyon the entire time of the seminar, and he was such a down to earth guy, and it was such a cool experience. And the fact that he was just kind of like, hey, you're the odd guy out, I'm gonna work with you. I picked up so many things from him. And I remember thinking at the end of that seminar, he was like, I'm going to come back. We're going to do another one. And I kept thinking, I'm like, man, I can't wait to work with Canyon again and do another seminar. And then to find out that he had passed, I was just like, oh man, that's like, I felt like I barely got to know him. I barely got to to sit under his learning tree, and he was gone.
And
That really sucks. But
Yeah.
that also is really incredible that you and Scooter actually have that connection with Canyon there.
Yeah. Like, I guess Canyon has, like, he's touched a lot of people, right? Like, it's he was a big deal, and I think that not enough people talk about Canyon anymore, and I think that's kind of sad because I thought he was like, outside of wrestling, I thought he was a great guy, but inside he was so innovative and, like, so ahead of his time that I feel like people don't give Canyon enough credit.
You know,
definitely.
it kind of comes to one of those things, and Kalikos has said this before. We don't really appreciate the people that are in front of us until they're gone.
Yep. Yeah, I can agree to that. Yeah.
Because we talked extensively about the Brody Lee situation, so yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, and yeah, like, what else can you say, right? Yeah, it does. It kind of sucks.
Right. Kaliko, you have a question?
Yeah, I'll try to make it a little bit more lighter. But actually, me and Mark got something else in common, but I'll get late to that to the end. But I want to talk about Aiden Rain.
My boy.
I feel like you two are literally intertwined from being not only
Yeah.
like opponents. I mean, y'all had a dog collar match, which to
Yep.
me is like pretty dope in a sense because no one really. It's a match that's not really done as much as it used to be, and I feel like it's more of a southern gimmick.
It's a lost art.
I don't know. I don't know why. But you guys also held the trios championship together. So
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out how the hell what clicked from going to you ready to kill this guy to like now you guys were champions together. Just talk about that because we always talk about how friends turn to enemies and they turn on each other, whatever. But this one is a little bit different. You guys went from being, you hate each other to now y'all like, fuck it, we might as well just whoop everybody else's ass together.
Yeah. Aiden Rain and I go way, way back. He actually kind of broke out in Fringe. Him and I had a rivalry. Started off as a rivalry for I'm trying to remember what the title was called. It's called the Hammer City title. And that was the hardcore title of that company. And him and I had some, like, brutal matches. And then as we kind of gone to different companies, our rivalry or friendship has kind of followed us everywhere. Some places have us team together. Some places have us as rivals. Him and I just click. We get it. We get each other. We get what the other one's kind of thinking. That's why our matches against each other work out so well. It's also why our matches together as a team work out so well too. Is we're kind of following the same wavelength. We kind of understand the same path of violence that we both want to take, and we kind of follow it. It also helps that him and I get along really well outside of the ring, so that makes a big difference too.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I want to follow up with the dog collar match in this sense.
Yeah.
Like going into that match, considering like, yes, no DQ, but to elaborate on the thought process of going into a match like that where it's more, I'm not gonna say violent. It's not like Hell in a Cell per se.
Yeah.
But it's like working within a gimmick that is really, really, truly old school. And I give you both of you guys props for doing it. That's why I brought that one up. Because it reminded me of some old, like, USWA type of, like, it gave me that type of vibe style. Because you got to give me the vibe style of, like, and this is the highest compliment, like a Dutch Mantel-ish. Like, you say what you mean what you say, you're ready to fuck somebody up. And if they fuck with you fuck them up. So that's why I go with that.
I think you got the nail on the head. That's kind of exactly what I'm about. But with the dog collar match, we were trying to do something different because the Ontario scene has had a lot of hardcore matches. Death Proof is like an entirely hardcore company. So we were doing this for Courage Pro Wrestling. We were trying to come up with something different that not a lot of people had seen recently. And the one thing we kept coming back to was either like a last man standing match or a dog collar match. And we were like, no one's done a dog collar match in years. Like, we couldn't remember the last time anyone on the local scene had done a dog collar match. So we are like, let's go that route because we can tell so many different types of stories. We can do so many different types of things. Like, we don't need any other objects. We just have like this chain between us that we're just whipping each other with and beating each other with. And we were trying to kind of, I guess, kind of get that Southern vibe on it, is that we were just trying to get the crowd into the idea that we were going to be tied to each other and we were going to brutalize each other. And that's all it was. It was just, the chain and us. And I think it worked for the most part. The company wanted to do some weird swerve things at the end. That's actually at the end of that dog collar match, Aiden Rain and I started teaming up. So that was a weird thing, but that was
yeah. Because I mean, I like that you went that route because I feel like that they can't, and this is where I feel like management kind of puts y'all in a corner because when you're thinking of something like a dog collar match, especially just for your example, it's basically to the point where both of you guys hate each other so much and y'all ain't trying to, and no one's escaping. It's gonna get settled right there. Ain't nobody going nowhere because you're bound to each other. And for them to do that to you, I feel like that swerve. I see what they were trying to go with, but I felt like that the story of you two hating each other in itself and the way that you guys worked it was really, really good enough. And I just, So to management, thank you very much for fucking up a good match.
And that's the hard part, right? Like, promoters, they want to go, they're going to do their own thing. Like, at the end of the day, you're getting paid to do what they want you to do. You can try to say your piece as much as you can, but it's still like their show. You're performing on their show. You're trying to give them what, they're paying you to do. So you're stuck in a box at a certain point, right? You got to try to do the best that you can with what you're being given. So.
Well, I always kind of look at it as, like, when you have, like, a blood rivalry like that, it's, you guys kill each other. At some point, the hatred is kind of overcome by respect. So you kind of respect each other more than you hate each other. And that respect could comes into a tag team. And then, hey, we've been doing this to each other. We could actually be successful if we do this to other people. Kind of like, Ciampa and Thatcher is doing right now.
Yeah, I think that was their idea behind it too. Is that they were thinking like, oh, you guys have had a rivalry in this company for like 2 years. Like, at this point they knew that this was the end of that rivalry. And they're like, but you guys work well with each other. Like, you've built up this mutual respect as enemies that you both know the limits that you're both willing to go to beat the other one. Like, it makes perfectly good sense that you guys are a team, and that kind of caught on. We started teaming other places like PWO as well. So like, it makes sense. It perfectly makes sense. It's just I think the execution could have been a little better, but at the end of the day, we still got to where we were trying to get to, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I get what James is saying. I just felt like usually when people come together, there's a reason for it, right? And there was like not a reason, right? Like even with Tommaso and Thatcher, it became a hatred into it, but a reason was because of the Dusty Cup. A reason is because of Hilgado. But that's the reason why, and I just felt like that if they gave you guys the reason, that would have made it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that would have probably put it together a little more soundly because they really had to work for it after that. We had to do a couple angles over the next couple shows to try to explain why we were like working together now, and I think that kind of it took
Put
a
y'all in a
little bit of the
box.
moment. Yeah, it took the momentum away from it. Eventually, we got it back, but like it kind of took a little momentum out of us. But you know, it is what it is, right? Like that's unfortunately not everything's going to be like a slam dunk, right? So
Yeah,
Now,
true.
segueing into absolute anarchy. Corey Stone betrayed you recently. Um,
yeah, that bastard.
can you tell us about the match you guys had on the Foundation and why this rivalry is getting a little bit more personal?
Well, we had to, unfortunately, Aiden Rain's knee was busted up. So we had to get a replacement in. We brought in my rival from PWO, Matthew Grant. And clearly, Matthew Grant and I couldn't get on the same page trying to defend the trios titles. Um, Stone, I guess, took offense to the fact that I couldn't concentrate on the match at hand and decided that he was better off on his own. And then a couple weeks later, when him and I had our match together on Foundation, he decided he was going to try to destroy my knee because he decided that if one member of Absolute Anarchy is out with a knee injury, why not two? So eventually, when the time comes, I'm going to have to get my hands on Corey Stone again. I don't know when. I've bided my time, but unfortunately, with not very much going on, I have to sit and wait.
Ah, and that really sucks. But
It does, because I would really like to get my hands on him.
possibly a dog collar match.
We could go that route again. I'm thinking maybe like a match where the stipulation is I get to break his knee, but
A
we'll
knee
see.
breaking match.
Yeah. Well, that might be a great time for a last man standing match, because if one of us can't stand, then we know who the real winner is. So
That's a great idea. I dig that. I like that. Scooter, you have a question?
Yes. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't compliment you on your beard, Mark, as I am a beard man myself. Is there a routine of maintenance you have to keep the beard the way it is? If so, what is it? Or is it just a result of quarantine and barbershops not being open for a close enough shave?
um, I actually started growing my beard a couple years ago. Um, I got sick of shaving. I decided I wasn't going to shave anymore, and I wanted to see, how long the day job would let me go with not shaving. And apparently, they had no problem with it, and the wife had no problem with it either. So I just kept going with it. But in terms of maintaining it, yeah, it's a little bit of an issue sometimes because you got to oil it, you got to wash it, you got to condition it. It's like having a second set of hair, um, which sometimes can be annoying because you got two heads to pretty much maintain now. So it's a little bit of work, especially wearing like masks around everywhere. You got bunches up, and the last year it's been. Sometimes I wonder. I look at it and go, "Why do I still have this?"
Right.
I cut my hair last year, and maybe I cut it a little too short. That made it like a little bit of a shock. And now I'm just at the point where haircuts, beard trims, I'm good. I'm just gonna let it all grow out. But that's
I'm trying to go with the natural approach, right?
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just this is the way nature intended me to look, and I'm just going to allow it to all be natural now.
Exactly. We got some beard bros going on here.
Yeah, there we go.
Kalika, you have another question?
I mean, I thought it was just the fruits and berries like coming to America, but I am jealous of that beard though. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Like, shot. My beard grows weird because one side it'll be like cool, and then the other side's like connect the dots with my shit, and it's like, yeah, I can't even. On a funner note, you and I have something in common. We both ran Tough Mudders.
Yeah, yep.
I want to know which one did you do? Because I did mine in Temecula in the
Okay.
fucking hot ass. Well, no, it was November, cold as hell, and it took me. I think we got there at 11. I didn't get home till like 8:30, and I was all fucked up.
Yeah.
So elaborate, Tough Mudder, for the fans and for the people.
I ran Tough Mudder in 2014 in Barrie, Ontario. We got there. I think we started our run at 10 a.m. I don't even think I finished until like 3 o'clock. I'm not a long distance runner. I trained as much as I could for that, but I'm not a long distance runner. I'm more of a short burst and strength kind of person. I like my one knee was fucked after that. My body hurt for like honestly like a month after that. I had cuts and bruises and scrapes all over my body, and I have no idea where half of them came from. I ran it with a couple buddies of mine. I'm pretty sure I accidentally hit one of my buddies with a log. There's one of the obstacles where you gotta grab a log and
you gotta grab a log, yeah.
Yeah, you run around the course, and I got like a second wind, and I just started booting it, and I wasn't paying attention to how close he was to me, and I just drilled him in the back of the head with the log. And I stopped, and he's like, I'm fine. I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm
Keep
fine.
going
like,
for the team.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep going, because if I stop now, I'm not gonna be able to keep going.
Oh my god.
That's kind of what. Yeah. All the Tough Mudder felt like if I stop at any moment, I'm never going to be able to move again. So I have to keep going.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Okay, so here's what my follow up with. The funnest part of the obstacle course and the worst part.
I loved the walls. I thought the walls were a lot of fun. I'm not overly tall. I'm only like 5'7". So like being able to run and like try to like get over these walls was like a fun challenge. The worst one was the wall climbing that you have to do with like the rock climbing grips. And you have to go, you have to go across. I was so stubborn because they were like, oh, if you fall off, just like swim to the other side. I was like, no, I'm going to do it again. I probably did it like 3 times, and I couldn't get any further than I did the first time. And I was just being so stubborn because I was like, no, I can do this. I can do this. And I probably wasted so much time there because I was like, I had to go back and stand in line and wait to go back through again. And it was like a miserably rainy day. Like it was August, so it was warm, but it was like a miserably rainy day. And I just kept going back to it. I kept falling back in the water, and I just kept going back and back. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get it.
Determined.
I never got it. I eventually gave up after the 3rd time because I was like, okay. Because I could see, like, the people running the event were, like, looking at me like, this guy's, like, starting to piss us off. Like, this is the 3rd time he's gone through it. They're like, move on, you're done. And I was like, all right, fine, let's go.
Oh, God. I think I know what you're talking about with the walls. Was it like the inverted ones where you had to hop on it with the other side? Like, instead of climbing up the one side, you had to literally jump up and then jump on the other side and slide down. Yeah, I hated them bitches. The funnest part for me, though, because they always switch it up, I like the part, because we had a part where we jumped into this lake, right? Like, about 30 feet, just like Wild style. I love that shit. That was my shit. The one thing I hated was they had this thing where like electricity, like these little
Oh
electric shocks in
yeah,
the
yeah,
mud,
yeah.
right? So I am like, and me and my friend, my homeboy, he waded through first, and me, I'm running through and I'm trying to dodge it, right? All of a sudden, I feel one of those things hit me in the back of the head, and I just flatlined straight to the ground, right? And I just low crawled the rest of the way, like hell no. Because
For
you know,
yeah,
because when I thought it, when you think electricity, I'm thinking like little shits, like them shits
yeah.
was like riot squad level. I was like,
Yep.
hell no.
That was the finish line for us. That was the last
Yeah,
obstacle before the
yeah,
end.
that's the last obstacle. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was so exhausted by the point I got to that. I was just like, how am I supposed to do this? And I think I tried to dodge the first like one or two of them, and then like I hit one and like right in the arm, and I was like, oh screw this, I'm just going. And I just like I think I literally took the little headband that they give you, I put it in my mouth, and I just ran and bit onto it. Yeah, because I
you
was
were.
like, I was like, I want to go home. I'm like, I want to go home. I want to be done. Like, I'm just getting through this.
Wait a minute, you got your headband before? Because I wish I had to do that shit. They didn't get to me the after, and the only reason they hit me in the back of the head, because because you're going after somebody else, so somebody else is swinging it,
Yeah.
and you're not even paying attention because you're just trying to catch their motion so it doesn't come back and bust. And that shit just hit me.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping you got your beers after though.
Oh yes, I was very excited to sit down there and drink that beer. I think I sat on the ground and didn't move for like 45 minutes.
I
It's
felt
just
like I felt like I took like 30 of them bitches. I think I took like 30 beers. I was like, fuck it. I want all my
Yeah,
money.
I was gonna say because I'm pretty sure I got a couple extra beers because I wasn't the one driving, so I was just like, yeah, I'll take your beer. I'll take your beer. And at that point, you're so exhausted and thirsty, you don't even think about it. You're just downing them. And then it gets like, yeah. Then you get in the car afterwards, and you're like, oh, there they are. They're all hitting at once now.
Like water. Oh man, I remember we had a couple people that ran it last, and we got done with the beer. We were already at the car, and we had to wait for people to get there.
Oh,
so
man.
think of everyone else. Everyone else is gone, and you're the only car in the parking lot.
Oh, I don't know if I could have done that. Yeah.
Horrible. Thank God it was Veterans Day weekend, so I had an extra couple
fair
days.
enough.
But I was like, fuck this shit. Never again.
No, I was gonna say I ran mine on a Saturday and then went back to work on a Monday, and I remember just being like walking into work, trying to get like into my truck because I was doing deliveries at the time, trying to get into my work truck, and just being like, I can't even walk up like the steps to get into my truck. This is stupid. Like, why didn't I take the week off?
I know, like muscles that you didn't know that was hurt. Like,
yeah, I discovered I had a lot more muscles than I ever like originally thought I did.
Now, getting back onto pro wrestling, could you tell us about maybe the difference between Mark Shaw, the wrestler, and Mark Shaw, the promoter? If there is a difference.
Yeah, in a sense, there is a difference. I think to a point, Mark Shaw, the wrestler, is far more of a character than Mark Shaw, the promoter, is far more me as a real person, as close to as a real person as you can be in wrestling. I definitely take what I'm doing as a promoter. I don't want to say more seriously, but with a different vein. When you're promoting, you got a lot of other people to think about. It's not just you. You got everyone else in your roster. You got your camera guys. You got your commentary guys. You got a lot of people that are kind of looking at you to make sure that you got your shit together, and you want to make sure that your staff is taken care of, your fans are taken care of. It's a lot. It's a lot more that goes into it than when you're just a wrestler. Your job is obviously knowing your craft, but at the same point in time, it's like showing up to work. You come in, You say hi to everybody. You find out what you're doing. You put it together. You put your best effort into it. You hope that you get, you do what the promoter wants you to do, and then you get your pay, and then that's pretty much it, right? You can maybe help tear down or whatever. You hang out. It's wrestling over promoting is wrestling's a little bit more relaxed, and I think that it gives me the availability when I'm at a show just as a wrestler to be more in tune with my character. When I'm promoting and wrestling, it's a very hectic day, so it can be sometimes it can be a little difficult to kind of drop into character because you got, even when you're just about to walk through the curtain, you got 1,000 other things going through your mind, being like, okay, there's like, the kitchen got everything they need. Is payroll done? Like, like, do I remember everything I got to do in this match? Like, are the fans having a good time? Like, did I put this match at the right spot on the card? So I find that promoting Mark Shaw, the promoter, is got a lot more going on that may distract him when he's Mark Shaw, the wrestler. But when I'm just get to be, in the ring, it's just that, and it's much easier to be in that moment and to be kind of connected with the crowd in that aspect.
All right. And PWO also has a relationship with Smash Wrestling. Why don't you have a relationship with Axe Wrestling?
The Smash relationship kind of came out of the blue. They were looking at the Smash is a pretty big company here in Canada. I'd say they're probably arguably bigger than PWO. But I had broken into the business with some of the people that run Smash. They reached out to me one time. They said we'd love to do a show in Burlington, but they're like, Burlington's that's your place. We don't want to step on your toes. They said, would you guys like to do a cross promotion show with us? We were ecstatic to get that exposure, so we jumped on board with that. We were very excited and very happy with the result. I think the Smash got to showcase themselves in front of some new fans, but we also got to showcase PWO in front of some new fans. I don't know for sure when we will do something else with Smash, but I'm sure down the road we will again. PWO, we're always very interested in collaboration with other companies. We think that that kind of strengthens wrestling overall, kind of like you see like with AEW and like Impact. The more collaboration you have, it keeps fans talking, it keeps fans entertained, and it keeps them guessing, which is a fun thing in wrestling because you sometimes don't get that anymore. So definitely I think we'll be doing something with Smash again. Hopefully once everything kind of goes back to normal, whenever that may be.
And why not a relationship with Axe Wrestling?
Pardon me?
And why not a relationship with Axe Wrestling? Action Smash. Just a bad pun.
Well, because Axe hasn't called me. And if he wants to call and set up, we'll do something. He's got to pick up the phone and call me.
We're demolition.
Scooter, you have a question?
Now, when Googling you without the descriptor of wrestler, a bunch of results come up, some good, some not so good. So I'm curious, has anyone ever confused you for a different Mark Shaw?
Local scene, I don't think so. Local scene, I've been wrestling for, oh God, almost 17 years now, or been involved in the industry for almost 17 years. I don't think I've ever been confused with another Mark Shaw. Not locally. I know I once got reached out to from somebody, I think it was like Louisiana.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been confused. Other than like the one time, like I got contacted from someone in Louisiana that was trying to tell me that they're like, we know what you did. And I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, like, don't worry, you know what you did. And I never heard from them again. So I had no idea. I just kind of brushed it off as, oh, okay, that must have been wrong person. So
All right.
did they
And
know what you did last summer?
nothing.
now, following up on the name, now, given what was said earlier in the interview, I'm leaning towards no on this, but there's also a DC Comics character by the name of Mark Shaw who goes by the villain, or here, depending on which version of the comic you read, Manhunter. Not Martian Manhunter, Manhunter.
Okay.
So
I was not actually, didn't know that.
Well, that in turn answers my question. I guess there's I guess not a DC Comics.
Admittedly, I'm not a big DC Comics person. Much more of a Marvel guy. But
That's the right.
yeah. The Mark Shaw name actually came about when I was a teenager. I had we did backyard wrestling like so many other like kids do and teenagers do. For some reason, I picked the name of Bradley Shaw. And then when I went pro, I thought Brad Shaw sounded too much like Bradshaw, and that people would get confused that I was trying to play like a Texas cowboy. So I was like, I need to switch the name up. So I switched it to Mark Shaw, and I kind of just rolled with that. And for whatever reason, I thought, I'm like, well, people can't copyright a name. Turns out I was wrong, but I thought at the time, I was like, oh, they can't copyright Mark Shaw. So if I get signed, they can't copyright my name. That's completely wrong. But at the time, I didn't know any better. So
I'm curious, has there ever been any discussion, just in any way, shape, or form, as it pertains to Mike Shaw, the man formerly known as Norman the Lunatic, Bastion Booger, Friar
Yep. I actually once worked as Mike Shaw because someone didn't understand my name was Mark. And so they billed me as Mike Shaw Jr. And even though I look nothing like Mike Shaw at all. So they were like, oh, you're Mike Shaw Jr. And it didn't go over very well. And I never worked there again. So I don't think that they were very happy that it didn't go over very well. But no, it doesn't come up too often.
Interesting. Kalika, you have another question?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of my questions. Because I always feel like you know what? I'm a music dude. Everybody know I'm the residential music dude.
Okay.
So Mark Shaw, what is the music of Mark Shaw's taste? Pre-match, post-match, ready to beat somebody's ass.
Pre-match, I usually go to Eminem. Eminem's kind of my pre-match.
Nice.
I'm not a huge rap guy. It's like Eminem or DMX is kind of like my pre-match. I like to get hyped up. Post-match, if I'm going to listen to anything post-match, I listen to like Rise Against or 30 Seconds to Mars. That's kind of more my coming down music, more my relaxing music. If that can be considered relaxing, I find it relaxing.
Man, DMX though, that's a good one. You know what's funny? I wrestled in high school, and before I used to, my pre-match was "What's My Name" by DMX.
Yep.
I used to just love that. Just like it just makes you ready to swing on somebody by the time.
Those first two DMX albums, like It's Dark and Hell's Hot and Flesh of My Flesh. those are good. There's some good tracks on that album. Both those albums that just like they get you ready. They get you ready to fight people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I posed this question a while back, but we'll go right here. On your wrestling career, you have a
Yep.
soundtrack to your wrestling career. What are the first 3 songs you would pick that would highlight and encapsulate your wrestling career?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of them for sure would have to be the theme song I've been using for the last couple years. It's called "This Is the Best" by USS. It's kind of like a love song for me to wrestling. It doesn't really talk about wrestling, but it's just that feeling of like being at a show, being like in front of a crowd. It's the best feeling to me. That's kind of why I took that theme song. I think another one would probably be "Because I Got High" by Afro Man. Because sometimes I've made some decisions that I was like, what was I thinking? Like, what was I actually thinking? Why did I do that? I must have been high. Yep.
When that song came out, I was on vacation in Florida. I was 16 at the time, and a radio station played it over and over and over again for 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
first time I heard that song, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like a Weird Al song, and I missed the point. I didn't realize it was like a legitimate track that somebody put out on the radio, and I was like, why am I hearing this everywhere? I was like, it's a good track. Like, why am I hearing this everywhere? Third song. Oh man, it's a tough one. I would have to say "Injection" by Rise Against, I think would kind of, if I had to have a song that tied into my career. It's kind of like wrestling has been the drug of my career, my life, I should say. You know what I mean? Like, when you do something or you're involved in something for 17 years and counting, like, you have to really want to be there. You have to really want to continue doing it. And you got to be kind of addicted to doing it, because otherwise, why would you continue to do it? It's not an easy industry. It's not a very forgiving industry on your body or your money or your mental state. So it's, I think, kind of like the idea that it's a drug. You got to kind of keep going with it, or if you taper off, you'll die.
I think that was the same reason my mother used to divorce my father. No, I'm kidding. That's kidding. They've been happily married for over 50 years now. Yeah.
Oh man, that's impressive.
But
it is.
And Mark, I commend you. You actually gave us 3 really good picks. I think Mike Law is still is still picking his 3 as we speak.
Oh man.
Mike Law has like, yo, I gotta redo this list. he was like, wait, what? Damn it, because so many good songs, but
yeah, and it's like, how do you pick 3 songs to like, cap or like to describe your career, capsulate your career? That's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. That's really good.
Now, something that you probably get asked all the time in interviews. The Grinder, your nickname.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you ever had some, issues with that?
It's a bit of a running joke in the local scene. Where I got it from, I don't know if any of you guys are hockey guys. The grind, like a grinder in hockey, is that like 4th line player, the guy that goes in, gets, starts the fight, is gritty, gets in the corner. That's kind of always been my style. I'm a little bit more of the ground and pound. I'm not a flashy person. I'm not the most skilled. I'm not the fastest, but I'm probably the toughest, and I'm probably going to kick the shit out of you from one ring post to the other. So I kind of I went through a period where for a little while first couple of years of my career, I was the urban warrior, and I kind of took like a darker Ultimate Warrior kind of approach. I used to wear like
Oh,
black,
interesting.
black makeup and stuff, and I kind of felt that phase was done, and I needed something new. So for a while, I went with no nickname. I was just Mark Shaw, and then eventually, somebody called me a grinder, like in my day-to-day life. They're like, "Oh man, you're just that grinder. You go out there and get it done." And I was like, "That's a good nickname." Then I found out there was like a gay dating app, like a couple months later, and I was like, "It's too late. I've already got shirts made." I'm like, "It's too late. We're already here." So
See,
What?
I know a grinder as a sandwich.
that's fair. In Canada, I think we call it a hoagie.
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
I know the Grinder as a TV show with Rob Lowe.
Yeah,
See, the
I'm pretty sure.
grinder I'm used
Yeah,
to is like the Memphis Grizzlies, the grindhouse.
fair enough. Okay, yeah.
That's cool. We all have
See,
our
yeah, we all
different.
have different things from it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, the original analogy of the Grinder is actually really cool and really great, honestly. Now, Scooter,
Thank you.
you have a food-related question, no?
Yes. Now, we asked this of all of our guests if they come from a place that's specifically known for food. And me, myself, being a foodie, I absolutely love poutine.
Yeah.
So, where is the best poutine that you've had in Canada?
There's a restaurant. It's a chain now. It's called Smokes Poutine. They do all these different types of poutine. Like you can get like a curry chicken one. You can get like a Philly cheesesteak one. It is so good.
Somebody mentioned it on a previous interview. I can't remember who. It might have been Holden. It might have been Clay. I'm not sure, but someone has mentioned Smokes before.
I'm not surprised. It like when you're thinking poutine and you're thinking Canada, that's probably like the best overall because there's so many varieties and options. Also, like if you're ever in Canada, sometimes just going to a diner and getting a diner poutine can be some of the best poutines you'll have. Because every diner's got their own way of doing it, their own style of gravy, their own cheese curds, and
Exactly.
but like a little bit of variety in a poutine's not bad. But if you're going for like options and like quality, like Smoked Poutine has always been the best poutine I've had.
Like almost like comparing the old Nordiques to the new Nordiques.
Exactly.
I think one day me, Scooter, and Kalika have to take a drive up to Canada and maybe try Smokes.
I highly recommend it.
Smokes poutine. Smoked poutine. You gotta have the poutine in there. If we go up there just to try smokes, people are gonna get the wrong idea, James.
Okay, well, I thought it was implied, but alright. Now that
Plus,
brings
I've
us.
been to Canada. I'm good, man. Newfoundland, man. I went to Newfoundland wearing shorts in May, thinking it's gonna be cool, and I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way real quick. Like, man,
Yep.
fuck this.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland it was cold as hell. How about that?
Yeah.
That brings us to our second food-related question. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Oh no, you don't put pineapple on pizza. I come from a Italian background. My mother's Italian. You don't put pineapple on pizza. It's a no.
Oh man, you know what? I agree with the Italian, but I was watching Finding Italy, and they had these noodles that were so fucking good, and I can't. Ugh, it's coming. I gotta get my cookbook together.
No.
Yeah, just one more quick thing. Have you ever met Tony Candelo?
Years ago, I'm trying to think. Might have been like 2010 2011,
Okay.
2012.
I ask all of our Canadian guests because my day job is closed caption writer, and I recently captioned the documentary about Tony Candelo's life.
Oh, okay.
So, all right.
That's an interesting tidbit of information. That's cool. How was that?
It was something. It was something. I can't say much because of an NDA, and I probably already said too much to begin with. But
Fair enough.
Now, you are an Assassin's Creed fan. I believe you
Yes,
even have a tattoo.
I do.
Can you tell us what attracted you to that franchise?
Um, I really kind of fell in love with the Assassin's Creed franchise in the second game. Being of Italian heritage, I really thought it was interesting because you can learn a lot from those games, and they do give you a lot of like actual historical information.
Oh,
Learning
absolutely.
so much, yeah, like learning so much about my cultural heritage. I found it really interesting, and then I really got into the story, and I found myself like I got into Assassin's Creed a little late. I'm pretty sure by the time I started playing Assassin's Creed, the third, like Assassin's Creed 3 was already out. So I kind of hopped into it late, and I fell in love with it like instantly, and I'm still in love with it series. I still like I only just recently finished playing Odyssey after putting 200 hours into that game. I did like everything you could do in Odyssey. I just everything about that series, I love it. Not every game do I love, but I find it fascinating. I like the historical aspect, and I like how they twist history to tell their story. But they don't change history entirely. They just kind of change little bits of it to tell the story that they want to tell. And I find that's it kind of feels a little like wrestling in a way. Because what we do in wrestling is we take something that's real and we kind of twist it a little bit to tell our own story, right? Our own version of it.
Right. Well, what got me into the series was the PSP game, and I don't think I actually finished that one. But
Liberation.
no, the one
You want?
before that with Altair. There was one before that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't believe I actually finished it. But I liked it enough to actually buy the original game. I think I think you and me are on the same track because I believe part 3 was out and going into Revelations. Revelations didn't come out yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And part 2 is probably my favorite as well because I wasn't a big school guy, but one of my favorite subjects was history, and Italian
Yep.
Renaissance was probably the one that I most vibed with. So, and to actually get immersed into the Italian Renaissance, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And it was like being able to climb around on historical buildings, and then you'd get to like the top of it, and there'd be like this little drop page that would come up and be like, learn more about this building. And I found like a lot of those earlier games, I spent so much time just reading about like the building and the history behind the building and being like, this is better. I could do this on Wikipedia, but like it's way more fun doing it this way.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and
yeah, like it was just I don't know, it was just entertaining. I like history. I was gonna say in school, if it wasn't gym, it was history. That was my class, and
yeah,
I think like ancient Rome was kind of a little bit more my speed. But Italian Renaissance was such an interesting time period that to put a game, multiple games in that time frame, I couldn't stop playing them. I think I went from one to the next until I got through all of them at that point in time that they were at, and I couldn't stop playing them.
then the series moved to America and it went on to hell.
Yeah,
um,
I wasn't a huge fan of the third one, but
there was like two after that was good. I liked the Syndicate, and I'll even give Origins its credit. That was one. It wasn't bad.
That wasn't bad. It's just Origins. I thought was if you're going to put something in ancient Egypt, like I don't know, you could have picked a better time period of ancient Egypt than to use like just before Rome came and conquered it, because you didn't even get to find like you don't even get to be playing the part when like like Mark Antony and Cleopatra are being like besieged by Augustus. You're playing everything before that, and you're like, okay, that's cool. I would have rather played, the actual war, but that's cool. I'll run around Egypt and do this.
I don't know. I have a particular spot in my heart for Black Flag.
I liked Black Flag. I thought it was a better pirate game than Assassin's Creed game, but
Yes, thank you.
yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Now, keeping on this note, you're also a Dungeons and Dragons guy as well.
Yep. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons, I think, since I was 10 years old. I've been playing it for a long, long time.
Now, what are you playing as in Dungeons and Dragons? And I think Scooter might have some follow-up questions as well.
I think at this point, because I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons so long, I've probably played every type of class and character that you can play. But it's like a fun creative outlet for me. I like more DMing now. I've been DMing a lot the last couple of years. I find I like building the story for my players to go through and play. I'm getting way more into that than playing myself. But I always tend to lean towards paladins. Those are always one of my favorite classes.
For those who don't know, he means Dungeon Master.
Yes, I'm using lingos and terms that not everyone else might understand.
Inside baseball talk.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I've never actually played a single Dungeons and Dragons game in my life. I don't have the patience for it. But I collect dice.
Okay.
Multi-sided. I love D20, D12 multi-sided dice. Those collections. Have you accrued a collection of that?
Oh yeah. I probably have like 3 pounds worth of dice. And like a single die doesn't weigh all that much, but when you have like 3 pounds of it in a sack, you could probably knock somebody out with it.
Maybe a new gimmick coming soon to the foundation?
Yeah. There we go. A dice match. You know what? Landing on dice would probably hurt a lot. They're like Lego. Like if you step on one, they hurt.
Tony Khan, if you're listening, that's our idea.
Now, it is once again time for that segment of the show, Markzware's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the freeways and byways and everything, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Could you possibly tell us a story that fits that description?
Tell you the story of the one time I thought I saw a moose, and we thought we were going to hit a moose. So we're story of myself, Rip Impact, and a guy named Danny Magnum, and we were driving from Hamilton to a place called Iron Bridge, and Iron Bridge is just outside of Sault Ste. Marie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those places. It's a pretty long drive. It's about a 6-hour drive. We were like halfway through the night driving. It was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. We had wrestled a show in Hamilton and then left to go to Iron Bridge. And Danny Magnum and I are up in the front seat. We're driving, and both of us freeze. And I slam on the brakes of the car, and I'm like, "Oh my God, is that a moose?" And Danny's like, "Yeah, I think it is." And I'm like, "What do I do?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Just don't hit it; it'll total the car." So I'm trying to creep up to this thing I think is a moose. Turns out when we got closer to it, we were both just so tired. It was actually a road sign. It wasn't a moose at all. And we just we sat there for another minute or two being like, how did we both think that was a moose? And he looks at me and he goes, "Man, you're the one driving." He goes, he's like, "I'm just the passenger." And I was like, I looked at him deadpan, and I looked at him and I was like, "But you said it was a moose." And he's like, "You said it was a moose, so I just took your word for it." And then the entire time we were trying to tell people that story when we got to the show the next day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're like, you saw the sign on this road that looks like a moose." I'm like, "Okay, so it's not just us." And they're like, everyone stops at it. They all think it's a moose.
That was definitely definitely fit the description of the question. Thank you for that. In more seriousness, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I think in 5 years' time, I may be wrapping up a little bit more of my in-ring career. I'll be 41 in 5 years. I don't necessarily think that yeah. Well, I don't think I necessarily I don't want to retire per se. I don't necessarily even want to get signed anymore either. I got two little girls, and I kind of like being home, spending time with my kids. I definitely want to dive full tilt into PWO and promoting. I would like to grow PWO to the point where we're one of the bigger companies in Ontario and in Canada. I would like to be able to try to branch out eventually and maybe do more collaboration shows with companies in the States and stuff like that. Try to make PWO a bigger brand. I'm hoping that's where I am in 5 years, is that I'm in the middle of trying to build PWO into a bigger brand. Wrestling semi-occasionally, we'll say part-time.
All right, that's cool. I really like that answer. And what is a match that people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Markzware is all about?
Trying to think of what is out there you can see. There's a lot of different matches from PWO. I think one of my favorite matches is from Locked in the Lions Club. PWO was myself and Matt Grant in a steel cage. I was really proud of that match. Even the first Iron Cup was the final of the first Iron Cup between me and Matt Grant was one of my favorite matches too. You can also take a look at match from PWO was a triple threat trios match, which is where Absolute Anarchy actually won the trios titles when we fought against Carter Mason, BMD, and Kobe Durst, and also the team of White Trash Circus, which was the last match I actually wrestled against Shawnee Mo in. That was just a chaotic match, but a lot of fun to watch. I do a lot of different things there too. So you can find all of those on IWTV under the Pro Wrestling Ontario banner.
All right. Hypothetically speaking, would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, an actual Rock.
An actual Rock? Yeah. I don't think I would win, but I think I would actually try to wrestle a Rock. I want to wrestle a Mop. I think that would be entertaining.
Well,
Mop has long hair. It can spin around. It sells the match really well.
Yes, sells better than a Rock.
just to put context to this, a guy named Psycho Mike wrestled The Rock
Yep.
for 15 minutes on Backyard Pro Wrestling in what was a
2 week
Fortnite
Long
Iron
Island.
Man match.
Yep. Yep, I know Psycho Mike very well. Him and I started training around the same time. He is hilarious. And I honestly think that he could probably wrestle anything and make it entertaining.
I was watching that match and I was just thinking, how did WWE not sign this guy yet?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. He got looked at too by WWE. He did a couple spots on Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that, and I don't know why they didn't sign him. He's such a good talent. He can do so many different things. I don't know why they didn't lock him in.
Insane.
I feel bad. I feel bad that he hasn't been locked in because he should be. He's such a good talent.
Scooter, you have one last question for Mark before we
There's a lot of arguing over who truly is Canada's greatest national treasure, depending on whether you're a sports fan or a movie fan. Now, I'm both, but I tend to lean more towards movies. So, would you consider Ryan Reynolds to be Canada's greatest national treasure? And if not, who?
I would have to say Wayne Gretzky. Yeah.
I knew that was going to be the answer, and you know what? That's more than acceptable substitute.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you're talking about like the cultural impact that Wayne Gretzky had on like just the rest of the world, and he's just a little Canadian boy. Like I think he's probably our most treasured person.
And he has spent time on my team, the Rangers.
Not very long, but he was there for a bit. Yep.
You know, it's crazy. We've had a lot of Canadians from Canada on, but first time somebody has said Wayne Gretzky to that question.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that one surprises me.
You know, me too.
I would have thought more people would have said Wayne Gretzky.
He's
kind of like the biggest celebrity, right? So
yeah, right?
Yeah.
We are nearing the conclusion of this interview. So we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Oh.
No actual doom to be incurred.
This is our speed round, our bonus round. The round where we see who you really are. I'm going to ask you 8 questions and you answer them however you see fit. Are you ready, Mark?
I am ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Shawn Michaels.
Worst wrestler of all time.
Oh. Giant Gonzalez.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
The Rock.
An actual Rock or a Dwayne Johnson?
Dwayne Johnson. But he's
That'd be funny, an actual Rock.
He's carrying a rock with him to the ring.
Okay, fair enough.
The country or an actual rock? No.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
You know what? CM Punk's Cult of Personality, I always thought was a really good song.
Yeah. That's a good one. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Dead.
Squash. Fruit or vegetable?
Oh, it's a vegetable? I'm not actually sure.
It is indeed a fruit.
I told y'all, vegetable. Ain't nobody talking about no damn squash as a fruit. And I will go to the grave saying that squash is a vegetable.
Then you'll go to the grave wrong.
I'd rather go to the grave wrong on my 2 feet than being lied to.
I like that answer.
You might have gotten the question wrong, but you are in good graces with Coleco Yachts. You are part of Squash Squad, so that is so much better. New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Oh, 3/4 inches, 3 1/4 inch. There needs to be a little bit butt that's exposed, but not the entire cheek.
I think that's the first time someone's given us a precise measurement.
Really? Really? Yeah. Now, the main event, the question everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No.
And that is the correct answer.
Okay.
And that will conclude our interview for tonight. Thank you so much for coming on, Mark.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And once again, where can we find you on social media and your pro wrestling tees and all that?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Grinder Mark Shaw. You can also find my Pro Wrestle Tee store at Grinder Mark Shaw as well. You can find Pro Wrestling Ontario, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well as YouTube and IWTV.
And all of those links will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Give him a like, give him a follow, buy a shirt. You've been listening to him for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And subscribe to Pro Wrestling Ontario, damn it. We coming up for us, we are doing a preview of WrestleMania this upcoming Saturday, Wrestling with Mania Week coming up with watch-alongs with all your favorite wrestlers: Holden Albright, Clay Wilson, Basic Becca, Kathleen, DVN. Next Wednesday, we have The Prize, Alex Price. And just a lot of craziness going on all next week with Wrestling with Mania Week. Stay tuned. Until then, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and comment. And follow the show on Twitter at Wrestling with E for everything wrestling with entertainment related. And you can follow us individually at you can follow me at JamesJ993. Where can they find Coleco?
You can find me cussing out Tough Mudder at I Am Coleco.
Yeah.
And where can they find Scooter Dust?
You can find me in bed next to your wife, and you can also find me on Twitter at Scooter Dust and holding it down for the UNB network at UNBS Wrestling.
For a very special guest, the Grinder Mark Shaw, Coleco Yachts, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.